Oh, I just smacked myself in the face with my hand. Okay. Hi there, my baby alpacas. Welcome back to my channel. Or if you're new here today, my name is Mystique and welcome to the Magical Rainbow Alpaca. So today I want to share with you guys part of my story. And I'm going to share with you guys the story of this most recent year that has come to pass. Because so much has happened during this time. Not only has COVID-19 been going on, I have been going through kind of like a spiritual reawakening. I've already had my spiritual awakening before, but this was kind of like a spiritual reawakening. So this was when I embarked on the journey of discovering who I am after being oppressed. During my journey, I lost who I was because I had basically given away my power to everyone else in search of love, trying to make myself feel lovable. Basically, I kind of wanted to share with you guys of what this past year has looked like for me, because this year was so freaking hard. Because as I said, not only was the pandemic going on, which in itself is destroying mental health everywhere, be embarking on a spiritual journey, as well as diving into shadow work and finding who you are, it is not easy. It was really hard. This year for me, oh my god, was the year of mental breakdowns. I cannot tell you how many times I had a mental breakdown this year. I gotta say, it's over 20 times that I've had a mental breakdown. Some of them were more serious than others. Like some of them literally had me suicidal and I thought I was gonna kill myself because I just was so done with life and I just wanted to give up. Not all of my mental breakdowns were that bad though. So we have that. At the beginning of 2020, I was starting a new journey. I moved to Kelowna, BC all by myself. And this was basically like a huge move for me because I didn't know anybody. Most people when they move somewhere, they at least have like an idea of somebody they know there, or like they have family there or something. But I didn't know anybody and I just was desperate to get away from the black hole of Canada. So I was just like, okay, let's do this. So I packed up all my stuff in my car and I moved to Kelowna. And I basically came here to go to school to become an esthetician. That's all fun and games. The first couple months while I was here, I was just in class and I was learning and I was in a new place and everything was awesome. I was loving it. But then is when my mental breakdowns started happening. Basically, as soon as my learning period in school was done and the practical part came into motion was basically when I had my first meltdown, because I had so many limiting beliefs stuck within me that basically had me in a place where anxiety just absolutely consumed my mind, and I felt like I couldn't do anything right and I was too scared to do anything, and I just wasn't able to think straight because I had so many thoughts racing through my mind of things going wrong and me not being good enough, and it was a nightmare. So basically, right as that started, the pandemic hit. So in a way that I'm kind of grateful for that having happened, because right then and there I wasn't sure if I wanted to continue in my schooling, and I was like, I don't know what to do because like I feel like I can't do this and my mind is like overwhelming me and I can't think straight. So basically, while the pandemic was raging, I decided to try and figure out why my mind was just overwhelming me and making me not able to live my life without feeling like controlled by my anxiety. At first I was thinking, well, maybe it's because I don't really have that strong of sense of self. So I invested in a whole bunch of like journals that help you dig into yourself to help you discover who you are. And I did that basically every day while in the pandemic. Within that time I had a big mental breakdown because I had an ex-boyfriend come into my life and basically say he thought I was his soulmate, and that kind of triggered something in me. And then he came back like 3 days later being like, yeah, never mind, you're too much for me. And that triggered something even more in me that made me feel so upset. And at the time I didn't really know why. I just knew I was being triggered. And at that time I was kind of like working through triggers that I had. I was trying to like figure out what this trigger was, and basically this trigger just completely consumed me and put me into a slight depression mode. And I think right after that happened, that's when my school got the okay that it was safe to resume practices at our school as long as we took care of hygienic means. So my school started up again. I went for 1 day, and that's when I basically was consumed by my anxiety again, and I was just like, oh my god, I can't do this. So I decided to take a leave from school, and I did that for an extra 3 months, an extra 2 to 3 months. During that time I was visiting back home, and then I went to visit Banff for a couple of days, and that was amazing. Such a fun time. Love Banff. If you've never been, you definitely want to check it out because it is so amazing. It's so beautiful. The nature is beautiful. The town's beautiful. I love the architecture of the town. It's just so log cabin-like, and it's just, oh, it's such like a warming aesthetic. I love it. I love it. I feel like it was kind of like a nourishment phase within my healing journey because it was right before my deep shadow work began. So yeah, after this whole nourishing phase where it was basically just like a bunch of self-care, that's basically what all the 6 months of the pandemic was for me, was just like a bunch of self-care. It was working, but if you don't clean out the gutter and the crap within you, it just doesn't do anything. It's like a band-aid that you put on a gaping wound and you hope that it's gonna heal. First off, you gotta clean out the wound, and then you gotta stitch the wound back up. Basically, the dirty, nitty-gritty of my healing journey began in September. And it all really started when I met somebody. And this person really triggered me so hard because it wasn't him and himself that made me feel like this, but he brought out all of the feelings within me, all the limiting beliefs within me that I felt about myself. During this time, I felt like I was so unworthy of this person, and I felt like I had to change to be what this person liked, and that's just not true, but at the time I thought it was. Basically, this person just made aware to me all of these limiting beliefs that I had about myself. This person was my catalyst, so did ever meeting this person make me learn so many different things that I'm going to have with me for the rest of my life. This person saw in me what I couldn't see in me, and finally was able to get me to see the good things about me. And this person also taught me about my boundaries and how my boundaries are important to maintain who I am. This person also taught me that if something doesn't chase me, then it's not meant for me. This person taught me so many things that completely changed me forever. So while this person was teaching me these things, it wasn't like he was intentionally teaching me these things. It was like, because of the things that happened, this is what I learned from it. And while I was learning these things, I was going through my shadow work. And shadow work is basically where you face the parts of you that you don't really want to look at. It's not, they're your shadow side. And basically you bring them to the light. So this can be like past events that have hurt you, or things about yourself that you don't like. It's basically healing and letting go of all of this negative energy that's stuck within you because of the past. So that means you have to go back to every single time you've ever felt pain, and you have to refeel the pain. And you have to let it go. You have to forgive people. You have to forgive yourself. There's so much that is entailed when you are doing shadow work. And let me tell you, there is a lot of flipping crying. A lot. When I say a lot, I mean a lot. Like, you know that Evanescence song where they're like, 50,000 tears I've cried? It's like that. Yeah, it's exactly like that. You are crying and crying and crying and crying and crying because you're releasing all of this negative energy that's stuck within you, weighing you down. It's not a fun time, I promise you that, but are the rewards so worth it? So worth it. While I was doing this and I embarked on this shadow work within myself, because of my anxiety being as bad as it was, I couldn't be in school. My mental health was at its worst. At its literalist worst. It was in the deepest depths of the ocean that have never seen the light of day. That's how bad my mental health was. I actually got sick. And it wasn't with COVID, it was just with some random sickness. Because of that, I had to stay home from school for 2 weeks. And let's just say that's when I had started my shadow work. And basically after this 2 weeks was done, I felt like I was not done my shadow work. And I was not ready to go back to school. So I didn't go back to school for another 2 weeks. That's when I started releasing stuff with my previous relationships that really weighed down on me. And then after that, I tried to go back to school, and I would miss school like every couple days because my mental health was just garbage. I was always messaging the school being like, hey, my mental health is like not doing well, because it wasn't. Basically, it got to the point where my school wanted to kick me out because I was barely ever going to school because of my mental health. That's how bad it was. I basically was in school on and off until the end of October when my friend threw a small Halloween party. Literally, there was like 10 people there. This Halloween party, I did some damage. I made bad decisions. Basically, I just made myself look like a fool at this party. Because of the events that took place during this party, it basically made me suicidal and depressed. And for a week after this party, I just laid in bed contemplating killing myself. I literally was gonna make a will and I was gonna give my car to my roommate. Like, that's how serious I was, and that's how much in a dark place I was. And then I found subliminals, and subliminals really helped me get out of that rut. I had told my school that I was taking another break because that's what I was planning on doing, and then I was like, well, what if I get a part-time job? So I got myself a part-time job. 3 days into this job, I get fired because I had a panic attack on my second day. So let me tell you, when I got fired, I was so upset because I'm like, wow, can I do anything right? Am I ever going to be able to function again as a human being? I don't know. And then I was just like, well, F it. Maybe I'm not supposed to have a job. Maybe I'm supposed to just focus on my mental health and get this done, get this out of the way, get myself into a place where I am in a healthy headspace so I can work productively and I can be efficient and I can be effective. So I bit the bullet and I was just like, okay, let's do this. As it crept into the new year, that's when I started hitting my core wounds because I had released all of the more shallow wounds, I guess you could say. So it's like when you're doing shadow work, you start at the top and then you kind of like work your way down into the most deeper parts, which are your core wounds. So that means that is like the wound that set all of your other wounds in motion. So it's basically like the initial wound. All of my other wounds that I had been working through were just kind of like surface level wounds. They kind of, once I started digging deeper and digging deeper, I realized that those wounds were caused by my core wounds. I have issues with my parents and my mom and abandonment wounds because my parents got rid of me when I was 16. And then never having like met my dad, abandonment was a very strong energy in my life. So a lot of my wounds stem from that. And with a lot of my patterns in relationships, I noticed that that is what kept repeating was being abandoned and being abandoned and being abandoned. When I finally got to the core of it, having to feel the core wound of being abandoned and actually feel it all, hurt so bad I cried and I cried and I cried. Now I believe that I'm almost on the other side of it. I'm hoping I'm on the other side of it. I feel so much lighter than I used to be. And that's the one thing about like shadow work, is that when you actually like work through your wounds, you feel so much lighter and free. Physical body feels lighter, energetic body feels lighter. It just, you overall just feel more free. So for most of January, I was working through the core of my abandonment wounds. And I'm praying, crossing my fingers that I'm done with it. But the thing about shadow work is that like, when you think you're done with something, 9 times out of 10, you're not. And you're gonna circle around back to it and heal another aspect of the same thing that you thought you had healed, but in a different way. So, or maybe even sometimes you have to heal it again in that exact same way because you didn't get it all. The thing about shadow work is that sometimes you have to do it multiple times. So don't get down on yourself if you don't get it all in one go, because sometimes you don't. Sometimes your energetic body just needs that much healing in order to heal itself. And now here we are in February. So now I feel like I am on the rebuilding part of myself, and remembering who I am is what my higher self has told me that I'm doing right now, is remembering my true essence of who I am. And in doing that, I just discovered that the reason why so many of us feel the need to look outside of ourselves for validation is because we don't feel lovable as ourselves. And when I discovered that, it hit me like a crackhead wielding a brick, trying to get the last hit from his fellow crackhead. Something that also coincided with me having like released all of this negative energy from within me is that my anxiety was less prominent in my life. Like, I didn't feel so consumed by my anxiety anymore. Most of all of our mental health issues is because the whole idea of not being lovable. And to me, that is a pandemic that is reaching all over the globe, because something I am noticing more and more and more is how, I don't want to say broken, because I personally don't believe a person can be broken. I don't, like, it's impossible for a soul to break. As I like to say, it can be beaten, it can be bleeding, it can be bruised, and you know what? Sometimes it gets a little deranged, but it's never broken. Every time a person doesn't feel lovable, it's like someone kicks their whole aura of being lovable. And it's just like every single time that feeling of unlovability pops up, there's another kick, there's another kick, there's another kick. And after time, that just wears yourself down until you come into a place where you don't feel lovable. I don't know where I'm going with this anymore. I've gone off on so many tangents that like I've lost a grasp on what reality is. Okay, so yeah. So right now in my healing journey, I think for the most part I've healed basically most of my stuff. Maybe with like a few more things in the core wounds area that I probably need to work through. I am reinstating the belief that I am lovable. And I am basically doing this by saying that over and over and over and over again until it's cemented in there. If you are going on a journey like this, similar to mine, I would love to hear about it. I think we can bring so much empowerment to each other by sharing our experiences with one another. And yeah, if you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. I would really appreciate it. And if you're not yet a baby alpaca, click that subscribe button just down there to join the baby alpaca family. And until next time, my baby alpacas, I love you all so much. Bye!